You see your friend, their own Bowie knife buried in their chest with their left hand wrapped around the handle, their lifeless eyes staring in shock toward nothing. With a jerking twist, their left arm spasms and thrashes about, then pops free of its socket at the shoulder and detaches entirely, leaving only a bleeding stump. It crawls along the blood-stained floor, its fingers moving in a spider-like rhythm. It scuttles into the shadows of the room, where a form slowly emerges from the blackness. Thinly veiled beneath a tattered cloak, it is a writhing mass of severed left arms. They are crawling, pulsing, and twisting about to the whims of some unknown puppet master. Where a face should be is nothing more than a group of hands that form two empty eye sockets with their fingers. Your friend's arm leaps under the cloak to join its brethren, disappearing into the hive. You open your mouth to scream, but then you feel your left arm begin to move of its own accord, down to unbuckle your revolver from its holster. Hi, I'm Peter, creator and lead designer of Tales from Elsewhere, and this week we're going to look at the Kentucky Sawbones, one of the more strange creatures I created for the Clockworld setting of Tales from Elsewhere. So let's dive into its inspirations, designs, and mechanics. I'm really excited to share this one with all of you. The most succinct physical description of a Kentucky Sawbones is a swarm of severed left arms covered by a cloak and a hat. That's really all there is to it. It is a wriggling and moving mass of these left arms, all of which are kept preserved supernaturally. They don't rot or decay despite being detached from their original host's body. And this creature could pass for a vaguely human shape at a distance, maybe at night, but close inspection would immediately reveal it to be a horror and not to be trusted. It can't speak or otherwise communicate in a normal way, so it does not hold up to scrutiny. But at a distance, at night, maybe a stranger coming into town, you never know who's underneath that cloak. Like most of the creatures in the Clockworld setting, I wanted the Kentucky Sawbones to draw heavily from the fears and anxieties of 19th century people. And one of the big fears people had was infection. So during Mexican-American War, American Civil War, people lost a lot of limbs due to amputation because they'd catch a bullet in the leg and that would become infected and they need to amputate. So the loss of limbs was very prevalent and on people's minds. So creating a creature that drew on these severed limbs just seemed like a really natural and interesting place to go. You have scenes in movies like Lincoln where Lincoln's son witnesses a doctor discarding dozens of severed limbs into a pit, and those kind of images really stuck with me and I thought would make for a very evocative and disturbing creature to add to the Clockworld setting. So what is the lore behind a Kentucky Sawbones? Well, as you've seen in my other videos, I like to leave some ambiguity there. I like to give both the game master and the players room to imagine and to wonder and to be uncertain about what causes some of these things to form. So the Kentucky Sawbones is a horror. That means it comes from elsewhere in some capacity. It's elsewhere's influence, infection on our world that creates it. Some people think that a Kentucky Sawbones forms in the aftermath of big battles where lots of limbs have been amputated. Others think it's from deceased criminals who, after being hung or executed, their severed arms crawl from the grave and join one sinful swarm. But it's not really known for certain what causes them to form or how you can even stop them from forming. But they're very rare and very disturbing when they do form. So with the Kentucky Sawbones, I wanted to create a threat that you wouldn't face head-on necessarily, that wouldn't so much be about just getting into a big battle. I wanted something that's a bit more hide-and-seek. I wanted a creature that would lurk in a town and threaten its citizens and the players, and then the players have to find out where it's hiding and destroy it before they're hurt or innocent bystanders are killed. And so I wanted a creepy scene unto itself. So I knew that the Kentucky Sawbones would need to be what's called a unique threat. A unique threat is one that is meant to be the whole scene unto itself. Maybe sometimes they have minions and such, but they're meant to be special and challenging and their own puzzle to interact with. It's not just like a bandit you fight, right, and you just get into a shootout with it. Unique threats are meant to be built up to and then a whole scene revolving around them, a whole interaction. So the Kentucky Sawbones was meant to be complex. So the Kentucky Sawbones really just has a few very simple mechanics that it uses. It has the ability to possess the left arms of people that are close enough to it, say within 100 feet. And what it can do is it can roll a mental afflict on its turn. It rolls against your grit. And if it succeeds, it uses your weapons, your arm, to attack yourself. It doesn't actually remove your action economy. It doesn't, mind control you and then on your turn you attack yourself. It's done entirely on the threat's turn, and that's because removing player agency isn't all that fun. And this allows the players to still have their whole turns to do what they want, even if they lose the use of that left arm. So what it does is it'll draw your weapon, like your knife or your gun, and it'll make an attack against yourself, which you can react to. You can try to block it. You can try to prevent your arm from shooting yourself, or hold the knife back from stabbing yourself. But that's its main form of attack. It would use this on the players and on innocent bystanders, which creates this intensity and this real pressure to get something done quickly. Additionally, if any character dies within the area of influence of a Kentucky Sawbones, their left arm will pop off, will disconnect, and become a crawling hand. And this arm will crawl about, and it can attack the players. It can try to strangle them or trip them by grabbing their leg. Or it can go find the Sawbones itself and join its mass, as the severed arms act as a sort of means of attack as well as the health, in a way, of the Sawbones. As it's really just a swarm of hands, it has no heart or brain or vulnerable spots. It's really just this amalgamation. So the more hands that it amasses, the harder it is to stop. And as the Game Master, you can actually choose how many hands the Kentucky Sawbones starts with as a way to control the deadliness of the fight. So one that has amassed a lot of arms grows larger and larger and has more of them to fight with, and more of them you need to destroy to stop it. Because even if one severed arm crawls away, the Sawbones could reform. So these fairly simple core mechanics for the Sawbones are there to give the GM the ability to make a really interesting scene with fairly simple tools. Just that set alone, put them in the middle of a busy saloon late one night as the players are carousing and gambling, and then they start seeing the other folk nearby start to pull out their own weapons and stab themselves. There's a ton of tension that gets created immediately, even with that simple set. Now, admittedly, the Kentucky Sawbones hasn't undergone a significant amount of playtesting yet, and so some of these features and mechanics may get shifted and iterated on as we work on it, but I think the evocation is right where I want it to be. I think it's such a cool and interesting and unique threat, and I'm really excited to put it in the community's hands and have them spook their friends with it. So lastly, I want to highlight the art here. This is another excellent work by the wonderful Dr. Neri. And this one was not a full res artwork that I commissioned. This one is just more of line work and color, so it's not going to be as high detail as some of the others. We will get it updated eventually, but for now I'll just put it up on screen and you can marvel at the wonderful drawing that he put together for this. And as always, do please like, subscribe, share, the whole deal. It really helps the channel out. And if you'd like to discuss more on the subject and discuss game design, come hang out in the Tales from Elsewhere Discord. The link will be in the description. Alright folks, enjoy this artwork and catch you next time.